Malaquen Milgo, CEO, ATHI Water Board. Welcome to the JSO interview.
Thank you, John.
Perhaps you could tell us in your own words about your career.
I am a professionally qualified civil engineer, trained both locally and abroad. I have worked both in the private sector and public sector, and also within international development cooperation. I have been a technical advisor in the ministries of water and the Ministry of Local Government. I joined ATHI Water Services Board in 2011 as CEO.
When I was first drawn to your name, I was told that you are responsible for the water supply to Nairobi. Is that a correct definition?
It is a correct definition, but I think it's important to know the players within the sector and how they are interlinked. ATHI Water in this case is basically responsible to plan and develop facilities and hand over the facilities to a water services provider to operate the facilities. So in a way, ATHI Water does not engage in direct service delivery to the consumer. There is also the overall body called the Water Service Regulatory Board that does the issue of regulation, performance monitoring, setting standards, and consumer protection.
Okay, so there's an overall regulatory board, then you manage the resource, then you farm it out to a provider. Is that my understanding?
Yes, we carry out the investments.
Right.
And an operator now does operations.
Right. I want to see, I want to visualize. Is it you who builds the pipes? What does that mean, managing the resource and that? What do you actually do?
Basically, it is planning and actualizing to meet the demand for water. You know, you plan in order to get resources and be able to implement adequate interventions to provide the service.
I'm going to ask you a simple question, because interventions, implementation, I'm going to ask you, why do we still have a water problem in Nairobi and by extension in similar big cities across the country? Why the problem?
Now,
if you're planning.
Thank you. ATHI Water came on board the year 2003. It is one of the 8 water service boards in the country responsible to plan and develop water and storage facilities. Now, if you look at the history of Nairobi, Nairobi has 4 water sources: Kikuyu Springs, Ruiru Dam, Sasomwa Dam, and the Ngido system. These systems have been developed over time. As a matter of fact, Ruiru Springs was done in 1913. The Ngido system, which is the latest, was completed 1995. Now, since then, there has not been any major investments to develop water sources for this city, and hence the challenge we are facing.
So again, the image there to put across to a viewer is perhaps that we can say the railway was built whenever we learnt in school. It was built in 19, and ever since we've never laid an extension track and we haven't changed the grid and it's the same. Is that an image that can be sustained in the water sector? We haven't done anything to improve things.
Let me say yes and no. Why is my response that? It's because I said the last investment for water in Nairobi City was actually in 1995. ATHI Water came on board in 2003 and basically embarked on a very ambitious program to ensure that this city does not lack water. What did we do? First thing, we looked at the existing systems and said they must be rehabilitated to reach the capacity they were designed to reach.
And I'm going to have another image, please, engineer. In recent past in Nairobi, we have had a flyover because we're addressing this whole idea of congestion on our streets there. What is the moral equivalent in this ambitious plan of the flyover that's going to ensure water supply to Nairobi? What is the ambitious plan to do what?
Now, first was rehabilitation. That's a quick win.
What does that mean,
when
rehabilitation?
When you have
what does rehabilitation mean in terms of water?
When you have a system designed to produce, for example, 100,000 cubic meters per day, okay, and you use it over time, it will be producing the 100,000 continuously unless you keep the system always in tip-top condition. If you recall a few years ago, Sasumwa Dam had been breached completely and there was zero production from that plant. So as a quick win, rehabilitation of systems was a key issue. As we are talking now,
right, so the first thing that you did, I want images that can be sustained by the man and woman in the street. The first thing that you did, you had an old car, you took it to the garage and gave it a major service.
As a quick
fix.
Win.
Right.
Okay.
But I'm suggesting at one stage you might consider buying a new car. Where's the new car?
I'm going there.
Right.
Now, the quick wins we did ensured that our production systems rose from about 300,000 cubic per day to about 550,000 cubic per day.
Right. Almost double.
Almost double.
Almost double.
Rehabilitation within 3-4 years.
Understood.
It was completed.
Understood. The notion of
okay.
Right, the major service.
At the same time,
right,
we also said we must look forward very critically. And we pictured 2035. And we asked ourselves, what will be the population of this city by 2035? How will the place look like? If you imagine now, there's Ruiru, for example, there is Kiambu, very distinct.
By that time, they'll all come together.
By 2035,
yes,
they'll have come together.
Right.
So plan with that in mind. So we have prepared a master plan to guide our investments on water supply developments up to the year 2035.
Right. Okay.
And we have defined 5 clear development phases.
5 clear phases. It seems to me that the word money should come in here. When you say that, is one to understand that whatever government comes in power, whichever administration, the budget allocated for this particular preoccupation, water supply, will remain year in, year out, and if anything, will be increased. Because no matter how wonderful the plan you have, you can't roll it out with no money.
Yes. I can assure you, John, that our plan, phases 1 and 2 of the master plan, which should be commissioned by 2016 and 2017 respectively, we are on course to actually roll it out. We have now the resources from government to be able to implement phase 1.
Right. The subtext in all that you're saying, engineer, the subtext is that up until now, there has been a mismanagement of the sector, and now people are waking up and saying, let's do something. Because if there had been gradual focus on this issue, we'd be much further. Is that something that you'd accept as a criticism?
You know, John, we have to be proactive.
Right.
In addressing our challenges. This is what informed our eagerness to prepare the master plan to guide our developments between now and 2035. So we know, for example, where will the water for this city and the metro area will come from between now and 2035. Which source should be developed first? Which source should be developed second, by when, and what are the broad costings for these interventions. We know that now. That is being proactive.
That is being proactive. I'm just saying, again, from the Mwananchi's perspective, we see this whole idea of we can't have water, we can't have rain unless we have trees and unless we have storage. And what we read in the papers doesn't lead us to be optimistic, to put it mildly. So how can you say that in 5 years from now, as part of a plan, everything's going to be just fine?
John,
are our papers misleading us?
Let me tell you, John, for a fact.
I know you're not a politician, but all this sort of Mao Forest stuff, surely it must impinge on what you're saying. Surely it must.
Let me tell you and give you the facts. Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the Water Master Plan, we have actually christened it the 4th Nairobi water supply, because the 3rd Nairobi was completed in 1995. Now, the 4th Nairobi has got 2 distinct phases. One addresses groundwater exploitation. Okay? The second part addresses surface water exploitation. Now, in terms of Phase 1, which is groundwater, we've actually done and almost completing groundwater exploration.
May I ask you a layman's question here? If I decided to build a borehole, yes. I'm building a block of flats, and I decide, I ask the tenants, if you pay an extra 2 million shillings, we will build a borehole. Because you've mentioned the word groundwater. If every single person in Nairobi capable of building a borehole were to build one, everything's still according to plan in other words, outside activity, beyond your supervision? Or are you giving people the right to go and dig boreholes and take as much water as they want?
By the way, the kind of boreholes we want to develop is not the kind of borehole I think you're talking about, because you're talking about a borehole that could be going like 200 meters. You know, why do you do a borehole? It's because you want to remove or exploit the groundwater aquifer that is down there. Okay? Now, there's a limit to that exploitation. If we all dig boreholes, maybe we'll deplete that aquifer in less than no time. What are we doing as ATHI Water? What we are doing is to carry out a comprehensive study of the groundwater potential in various areas that have shown an indication for groundwater. So even the boreholes I'm talking about, which we are drilling up to 600 meters down,